I said that Luffy vs Kizaru had the potential of being the most ridiculous fight in One Piece, and so far, it seems like I am being proved right on that. This chapter gives us a good look into the respective bags of Luffy and Kizaru, and things are going exactly how I thought they would. Luffy is just chilling in his giant form, and I guess this is just something he can casually do now. It's really surreal seeing Luffy holding a Navy Admiral in his hand as if he were a small toy, and I'm not sure I'll ever get used to seeing Luffy randomly 10 times taller than he normally is. The scary part is, even when being spun around by the giant-fied Luffy, Kizaru is seemingly completely unfazed. I've touched on Kizaru's apparent apathy before, but to see him largely unbothered by the unorthodox nature of Gear 5 is terrifying. It's especially jarring coming from Kaido, who had no idea what the heck was going on when he was fighting Luffy in Gear 5, and there were moments you could tell this guy had no godly idea what was happening to him. Yet here we have Kizaru, and when facing that same ridiculous power, he's more inconvenienced than anything. Like, I am not trying to push an Admiral agenda or anything like that, but the composure of Borsellino leads me to believe that he has something insane up his sleeve. The same goes for Luffy though, as he's engaging in his usual wacky Gear 5 shenanigans. Bro tosses an Admiral a dozen kilometers away and goes, "Hey Zoro, need a hand?" And Zoro goes, nah bro, I got it. Focus on the literal Admiral you're fighting." Speaking of Zoro, he and Rob Lucci are fighting on about equal terms right now, which is good for Zoro, not so much for Rob Lucci. This is the same guy who actually thought he could go one-on-one with Yonko Luffy, only for him to get absolutely coasted. While there is no shame at all in being around the same strength level as an Emperor's first commander, the problem with Rob Lucci is how much of a sniveling little he is. It's hard for me to appreciate how strong he became when he continues to lick the boot of people who wouldn't even care if he died tomorrow. No lie, the fall from grace Rob Lucci has had is honestly pretty sad. It almost makes me feel bad for him. Once upon a time, Lucci was one of the rawest villains in One Piece, but today he is but a shell of the man he used to be. The aura is gone, bruh. Rob Lucci is like a third-year university student going back to his old high school's football games to make himself feel better. This also illustrates how far the Straw Hat Pirates have come collectively. Lucci isn't a threat to Luffy in the slightest at this point, so it is up to the vice captain to skin this silly kitty once and for all. I don't know about y'all, but Sentomaru is a character that I've really come to appreciate in the Egghead arc. I've always loved Oda's ability to make you care for a side character, and Sentomaru is another example of this. The man was all but not utterly wasted by Kizaru, and he is still able to fight off the Marines to the very end. Sentomaru has definitely earned my respect in this arc, and he is undoubtedly an MVP. Back to Luffy vs Kizaru. This fight is a lot of fun just from the short bit that we've gotten so far. Kizaru remains completely composed and he continues to show off all of the countless ways light can be utilized. I don't think anyone could have ever guessed light clones being a thing, but it is that sort of unpredictability that makes One Piece fights such a joy to read. These clones don't appear to be sentient. That would be crazy, regardless of if they can act on their own accord. If not, being faced with a possibly infinite number of Navy Admirals is a nightmare scenario for anyone, but Luffy is holding his own. Neither character in this battle is having a particular hard time just yet. Instead, we are given a mere glimpse into what these guys are capable of. What we are treated to in this chapter was a fun showcase of what could possibly be to come. I can't emphasize how huge it is to witness an Emperor of the Sea fighting a Navy Admiral in this capacity. I know there is a lot of debate about who's stronger, the Yonko or the Admirals. That is another topic for another day, but what I will say is Gear 5 has opened up new doors as far as Luffy's fights go. The closer we get to the finale, the more we can expect fights following in the same vein as Luffy vs Kizaru. A light man and a mythical sun god are engaging in combat in the skies of a futuristic island, and the scenes we see reflect the ridiculousness of that very statement. A lot of people are taking Kizaru's demeanor as a sign that he is massively above Luffy in the strength category, but in all actuality, Borsellino is bearing in mind that taking care of Luffy is not the mission at hand. The goal is to exterminate Dr. Vegapunk. Everything else comes second. Of course, Luffy isn't just gonna take that laying down, is he? Oh, no, no. What we know about Monkey D. Luffy is he would do anything necessary to protect his friends, including eating literal light. You know, I would love to be inside of Luffy's brain while he's fighting, because of all the things he could do, why was eating light the solution? It's such a Luffy thing to do though, and to top it all off, the very next thing we see is Luffy emitting light through his eyes, mouth, and entire being like an 80s disco ball. This is just Luffy doing what Luffy does best. Things are about to get crazy on Egghead, and if I'm being honest, I am every bit as anxious as I am excited. Stella, Atlas, Sanji, and Frankie are all headed down to go save Bonnie, and I can't help but to get a bad feeling about this. Being accompanied by Sanji and Frankie means Vegapunk has some pretty reliable security against any marine officers, but the problem here is one Saint Saturn. He appears very menacingly at the end of the chapter after Atlas gave all the pacifists the command to turn their attention towards the Marines. Saturn currently has the power to totally overturn the situation on Egghead with one simple order. As far as we are currently aware, the 5 Elder Stars hold the highest command power over the pacifistas, so if Saturn were to theoretically make his move on Egghead, it is entirely conceivable he turns everything on its head without the need to get physical himself. Saint Saturn is a massive X factor, and I can't stress that enough. We don't know what he's thinking, why he opted to come all the way in person to Egghead, or what he plans on doing. My fear is Saint Saturn may attempt to assassinate Vegapunk with his own hands should it come down to it. Whatever the event is that caused the infamous Egghead incident has to be near. Oda is clearly moving pieces around for something bigger, and this becomes all the more clear when you look at who's gathering in the lower level of Egghead. Jewelry Bonnie is there, Sanji and Frankie are on their way, accompanied by Stella and Atlas. It is only a matter of time before Kizaru makes his pursuit after them again, with Luffy right behind him. I am betting on this all leading towards Luffy and Saturn finally coming face to face with one another in what I am sure would be another callback to the Sabaody arc. Back then, Luffy defended a friend by slugging world noble St. Charlos into next year. It is St. Saturn's turn to receive a well-deserved punch to the face while Luffy protects Vegapunk. Monkey D. Luffy is an emperor of the sea now, and on the future island Egghead, he will finally plant his Jolly Roger and stand his ground as a true titan of the One Piece world. Alright, so crack theory time. What if we've already seen Kizaru's awakening? And just hear me out, okay? When Paramecia types awaken, they can affect everything around them. When Zoan types awaken, they align with the beast their fruits are based on. What if when Logias awaken, they just become the embodiment of that natural element? We talk about how calm Kizaru is all the time. What if the man is just enlightened?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Get it? Because he's light, and enlightenment has the word light. Alright, you know what? I'll just see myself out. Alright, that's all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to like, leave a comment, and of course, subscribe. And I'll catch you lovely people later.